evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Phil the Conquistadork. Welcome to my favorite games of 2015. Now, the only rules to this are they are games that I loved, that I couldn't put down for one reason or another. This doesn't necessarily mean games that I thought pushed the industry forward anyway, or games that I found to be important with a capital I, although those lines blurred occasionally, I won't lie to you. They are just my favorite games, so if you don't see your game on this list, it might mean that frankly, might not have played it. There were plenty of wonderful games out there that I just didn't get around to playing this year. It was a good year for video games, so it could be either that I just didn't play your game, or I hate your game. I might hate your game. I probably hate your game. Let's go with that. So without further ado, my favorite games of 2015. Fallout 4. Now, this game is probably the most polarizing game in the Fallout series since, well, Fallout 3. A lot of the purists hated Fallout 3 because it was far less of an RPG and far more of a first-person shooter. And if that is true, then Fallout 4 is pretty much entirely a first-person shooter with a little bit of role-playing elements. It's a very flawed game, I'd be the first one to admit that. But at the same time, Bethesda did a wonderful job, as usual, of creating a world. It's huge and expansive. You don't spend a lot of time walking around and being bored. There's always something to see. With the new settlement building options, you're creating new things. You're looking for every scrap of anything that you can find. You're building new weapons. You're taking on companions. There is a lot to do. And even if I spent most of the time mowing down people instead of talking my way out of situations or coming up with smart guy tactics to kill off the bad guys or just avoid them completely, I cannot deny that I spent a lot of time playing this game. A lot. Probably more time than any other game I played in 2015. If I were giving out named awards, I would probably refer to the one I'm giving Fallout 4, the best game of 2016 that just happened to come out in 2015 award. You can look at the foundation that Bethesda has put down for Fallout 4 and just tell that it's going to be something that is going to keep people busy for hundreds upon hundreds of hours to come. And that's just with the vanilla version. I think of Skyrim, for example. The fact that Skyrim came out in 2010 and is still one of the most popular games out there. People are still modding it, people are still playing with the DLC, people are still talking about it. I can't deny that Fallout 4 has changed. That would be stupid. Fallout 4 is very different from any of the other iterations of Fallout 3, and Fallout New Vegas for that matter. The storyline is a little more basic, the plot twists are a little more easy to see from a mile away, frankly. On the other hand, it is a tight shooter with really fun controls, really fun mechanics. It's a great game. It might have been better if this was a new IP. I think we would have been more forgiving if instead of Fallout 4, this had been something new, and that way we could all go, oh, okay, it makes me think of Fallout 4, but it's more of a shooter kind of thing. We might have been more forgiving in that situation. However, to suggest that it's a weak game overall, I think is just incorrect in my own opinion. I've sunk a lot of time into this game, and not out of blind, stupid loyalty. It is a genuinely engaging and fulfilling game. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I can see myself sinking another 100 hours into it next year when we see DLC and more mods and that kind of thing. I'm actually really looking forward to that. And that's why Fallout 4 is one of my favorite games of 2015. Undertale. This one took me off guard. To be completely honest, it took a lot of people off guard from the looks of things. On the surface, it's kind of a standard 8 to 16-bit looking JRPG style Earthbound clone. And in many people's eyes, that's all it is. I think what we're going to see a lot of in the coming months is a backlash against Undertale, if indeed we haven't already begun to see it. Undertale's been snatching up Best Game of the Year awards like candy from everybody, really. Everything from GameFAQs to the Jimquisition has been talking about how wonderful it is. And I'm no different. I remember playing this game for the first time after many, many recommendations from friends and critics alike and thinking, oh, this is cute. I can see why this is fun. I just don't see why people seem to think this is going to change the world. But given enough time with Undertale, you start to realize its deeper intentions. On the surface, it's just another look back at RPGs of yore, if you will. And that's going to attract all the right people, I think. It's going to attract people like me, for example, who sat down and went, oh yeah, I remember role-playing games like this. This is fun. I'm really enjoying myself doing this. And then the game starts to fuck with you. Because once you get past the surface level of this game, you're dealing with a game that knows that it's being played. Try to restart the game, try to clear out and do something over. It knows what you're doing. It's paying attention, and it responds in smart, eloquent ways. It's surprising, really, and it's a lot of fun. It's got themes of mercy and love, but at the same time, violence and the consequences of your actions. I'm not completely sold on this being one of the most important games in the world, but damned if it didn't catch my attention. King's Quest: A Night to Remember. Should this count? I mean, it's just the first episode of a series. Should it really be on this list? I don't care. I genuinely don't. This was a wonderful reboot / prequel of the original Sierra Adventure point-and-click series. The Odd Gentleman took this one over and did a great job with it. It's not the same sort of point-and-click that old fans like me might have been used to. It's a lot more fast-paced, it's a lot more cartoony, but God, is it true to the series. It's got that same sense of wonder and quality and fun that the original Sierra program had. It's essentially what King's Quest would have been if it was made today, which of course it is, but it's got all the right elements. Just a little bit of Telltale, a little bit of that old school point and click, and just a wonderful, wonderful sense of humor. I don't like throwing the word whimsy around, especially this year, because we've had a lot of games that could be construed as whimsical, but this one had it all. With luminaries like Christopher Lloyd and Wallace Shawn filling out your cast, you couldn't go wrong with the acting. The music was beautiful and it looked gorgeous on top of everything else. And first and foremost, it's just fun for an old school King's Quest fan like myself to watch King Graham tell the story of how he became a king in the first place. The second episode just recently became available on Steam. The rest of them are coming out next year, and I cannot wait to see how it all culminates. Honey Pop. Boy, am I gonna get a lot of shit for this one. And I do not care. Honey Pop in 2015 was a serious guilty pleasure for me. It's your standard match 3 game mixed in with a little bit of dating sim, neither of which I'm usually a great big fan of, but there was just something about this game. It was the perfect storm of sleaze. You play kind of your standard down-and-out virginal loser who's trained by a love fairy, that's right, a love fairy, how to get laid. And it's so stupid. I mean, it's so stupid. You take these girls out, you have to get to know their personalities, you have to know their likes, their dislikes, what they'll turn on to and what they won't, all while playing the puzzle games and hoping you're not getting distracted by their boobs. And yes, eventually sleep with these women. Please remember, wear headphones while you're doing it. You'll be glad that you did. Honey Pop isn't for everybody. Hell, it's barely for me. But I found it to be just the right level of raunchy, stupid puzzle fun that I ended up coming back to it again and again and again. And if they come out with a Honey Pot 2, I'm coming back to that. And you know what? I don't owe you people an explanation for that. Don't care. One of my favorites, 2015. Suck it, losers. I'm joking. Please don't actually suck it. I don't think you're losers. This is just a fun game, and it's hard for me to come out and be vulnerable in front of you like this about the whole thing. Honey Pop, one of my favorite games of 2015. Blood Bowl 2. This game belongs to the category of sports games that aren't technically sports games. I loved Blood Bowl 2 as much as I desperately hated Blood Bowl 2, both in equal proportion. It was my hair-pullingest moment of the year getting to know this one. For the uninitiated, Blood Bowl is essentially the Warhammer universe playing American football. I've always liked to think of it as a UK parody of American football. It's gotta be what they imagine we're like when we play this game, and they're not all wrong about it. For any of us who are more experienced with football, however, it is the ultimate chance to let your id be free on the football field. Not satisfied with just stripping the player's ball? Well, crush his head with your feet. You want to play a greenskin or an elf or a giant minotaur as you charge down the field? I insist that you do so. Want to cast a fireball on somebody to keep him from getting into the red zone? Have at it, big boy. Blood Bowl is here to please. I'm no stranger to the brutality of Blood Bowl. I've been playing that game for a very long time, both on tabletop and in its computer game iterations. It's just one of those games that you forget how frustrated you're going to become every time you come to the table. As far as the specifics are concerned, Blood Bowl 2 does have a ways to go. It can be buggy sometimes. A few of the features are weird, like, for example, you all have the same dead-eyed human female cheerleaders, no matter who you are playing for. But you just keep coming back. It just kicks you in the ass over and over again, and you keep coming back. You build up your team painstakingly, naming and coloring in each one of them, specifically building him up with experience points, and then the game takes him away from you, crushes his head into the dirt, and you cry and you cry and you cry. Blood Bowl 2, the most fun I had in 2015 screaming at inanimate objects. The Bug Butcher. Now, I tried to put this list together without including early access, or at least avoiding it as much as possible, but if I'm being honest with myself, I can't have a favorite game of 2015 list without including The Bug Butcher. You may have noticed that with a lot of my games, there are ups and downs. I tend to go from the very heavy extreme games to the very light and cuddly and friendly ones. The Bug Butcher kind of combines the two. It's got a very friendly, cartoony aesthetic that is really easy to get into. It strikes you initially as the kind of shooter that'll be fun just to tilt back in your chair and relax at the end of a long day. And then almost immediately, it becomes a bullet hell style extreme game where you're jumping and running from all kinds of horrible critters that are spitting all kinds of otherworldly things at you. throw in an arsenal of badass weapons and technology, and you've got a satisfying, if somewhat frustrating experience. It might not look like much on the surface, but consistently, I have come back to the Bug Butcher again and again for a frustrating, shooty, laser-filled good time. One more level up, one more upgrade, one more cluster of horrible cyst beasts for me to explode. I love the Bug Butcher. I really think you ought to give it a shot in 2016. And finally, Pillars of Eternity. Pillars of Eternity harkens back to an older age of the classic role-playing game. Things like Baldur's Gate, games that I was obsessed with when I was much younger. You get a little older, and those games go out of style, and something in your head starts to go, well, what was the big deal with those games? And Pillars of Eternity says, this is what the big deal was. Imagine playing Dungeons & Dragons with the best DM you have ever had in your entire life. The stories are rich and full, the world is enormous and beautiful, there are set pieces everywhere, the most beautiful places to do battle, to test your skills, and to actually have honest-to-God role-playing moments. Yes, that's right, a role-playing game that actually lets you role-play. Pillars of Eternity was partially funded through Kickstarter, and much like last year's Shovel Knight, it really proves what good Kickstarter can do. And with this year, that's a great thing, because let's face it, the bloom is off the rose as far as Kickstarter and crowdfunding in general is concerned. Too many games have just kind of stayed stagnant in early access or some other form of alpha or beta, and some games have outright just been scrapped. It's one thing to have a lot of gameplay, it's another thing entirely to have a lot of good gameplay. And that's what Pillars of Eternity offers. This is the sort of game that for $50, an old school role player could just slowly peel away layer after layer of it and have a blast every single minute that they put into it. It's like an epic novel that you have a part in. The classes, the culture, the races, the stories, everything about Pillars of Eternity is worthwhile and absolutely lovely, especially for the classic role-playing game enthusiast. And that's why it's one of my favorite games of 2015. So those were my favorite games of 2015. I hope you liked the video. I know I don't do a lot of videos that require the heavy editing, so this is a new venture for me. Next year, we're going to be focusing a lot more on reviews. We're still going to be doing Let's Plays. We're still going to be doing the unboxings and stuff like that. I have a lot of fun doing those, but I really want to get back to reviews. It's where I started. I did a lot of written reviews for various websites, for my own websites, and I'd like to transfer that into the video format because it, to me, is a little more relevant in this day and age. So I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to be learning how to do it as I go, so please be patient. I'm going to be doing new game reviews. I also want to do some retro game reviews. Some of my favorite games from Super Nintendo age, from 8-bit NES age, Mega Drive, Sega Genesis, all that stuff. Some of my favorites, some of my not favorites. If you have any that you'd like me to review, that you'd like me to go over or have discussed on the show, please let me know. I'll be happy to take it into consideration, especially if it's an old game I haven't played. That could be a lot of fun too. Still be doing DUI FYI. We're going to talk about the gaming news. I'm not going to have as much daily content as I used to, but like I said, I'm going to be focusing on the reviews, trying to get something out there, something of a higher quality as I go along. The Let's Plays will still be around, just not as regular as they used to be. But please, come on and check me out. We're going to be having a lot of fun. 2015 was a crazy year for video games. I think 2016 is going to be just as good from the looks of things. We've got a lot of cool stuff on the horizon. So, my name is Phil the Conquistadork. Please like, comment, subscribe. Join me for more fun in the future. Hope you have a happy New Year. Hope you had a Merry Christmas, a Happy Kwanzaa, a Happy Hanukkah, all kinds of other stuff. Hope you had a happy time. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're okay. In the meantime, in between time, my name's Phil the Conquistadork. Bye-bye.